Welcome back, children, and gather round, everybody take a seat, because it's time for another chapter in the amazing tale that is Gunslinger Spawn in issue number 6. Now, as you know, I have been following along with this story since it first began, and it's been ramping up as far as the stakes. Things just continue to get a little bit weirder and weirder every time. So I do enjoy that, and that's exactly what we have here. Things are about to go from 0 to 100. Well, not that fast, but it will get there. So let's just jump right into the story. Now, if you will remember, Clown finally convinced Gunslinger Spawn to basically work with him in the interest of getting Gunslinger back to his own time. Well, somewhat back to his own time. Not the time he just came from. He wants to go back a few years before that. But anyway, yeah, if you don't know that, that's what happened in the last issue. So, now you're more or less caught up. Now, let's jump right into the story. So it says, like all creatures from hell, they can travel in the black abyss. For some, that skill has been honed to perfection. And so we see where, yes, they're coming out of this portal, and Clown is saying, hope that didn't hurt, but he just says, I'm fine. He says, I'm sure you are. I hope you'll take the time to relax for a moment while I tend to some logistics. It says, in this case, it's how Clown comes and goes from Omega Island. He's just saying, I've been here. And he says, I know. So his guards are basically welcoming him back home. He says, the rest are right behind. Prepare their cages. You may want to step aside, Gunslinger. So yeah, it says, as he does, a hulking violator and 24 tiny creatures pour through another portal. They're called omens, apparently, and they've been trained to know their place, and they just go directly, to their cages and, put themselves away. It says, like well-heeled dogs, they return to their kennels, as a contingent of guards carefully work to restrain a compliant violator. It's like some scene from a King Kong movie, except this giant monster accepts this intrusion. They go on without them, as Clown is telling him, my pets need to be properly leashed when they're not being used. Says they enter a room littered with sadistic equipment and bodies. So he's asking, are these more of your pets? But he says, no, these are just remnants to remind me of the pain I've suffered, and where I recently killed a hellspawn. And then he decides to do the whole, I'm just kidding with it, your face. You actually thought I was serious, didn't you? So he slaps him on the back and shit as he's laughing. And then he says, as I said, you're too valuable to hurt. So Gunslinger's just like, all right, thanks. He says, besides, we can't send you back home if you're not healthy. So tonight, we dine like kings. Says, lost in thought, Gunslinger isn't listening. Instead, he's remembering why he needs to get back home. So Clown tells him, I've had the servants prepare the courtyard for us. And please, tell me you're not vegetarian, which Gunslinger, being from the past, just like, I don't even know what that means. So he says, excellent, because tonight we dine under the stars and officially seal our partnership. So behold, I've spared no expense to give you the most magnificent evening you'll ever have. So he looks at the spread and just says, whoa. He says, and no guess, it's just for us. He says, all this for 2 people? He says, impressive, isn't it? He's like, well, that's not the word I was thinking of. So they go and sit down. He tells them, mind me asking something? I don't quite understand how this works. Like, how is it no one knows you're here? It's a big fortress, tons of weapons, a small army. Hell, it's a goddamn island, and you act like you haven't a care. To which he tells them it's covered with a cloaking signal. Humans only see and register a small deserted island, not Omega Island. It'll make more sense after a few glasses of wine, and then he passes them a glass, but Gunslinger Spawn tells him, no thanks, I'm more a whiskey man. So he says, but of course, I should have realized a man of your distinction would know exactly what he wants. We keep getting shots of the dagger as, letters keep getting added onto it. And it says that he does, Clown. A screamed command later, and yes, now he's pouring him whiskey. He says, whiskey it shall be then. So Clown is going to find out very quickly why it is that you don't, why I learned that there's no real reason to consume as much whiskey as he's about to. Other than the reason that I realized diarrhea is not for me.
I used to drink whiskey,
Not
but
anymore?
turns out diarrhea is not for me. Because darker liquors are harder for your body to break down. They're more complex. Complex notes of fruit, floral, and nut in my butt. What?
It says, a toast to the future. And then he says, to the past as they clink glasses. So now we get the dagger gets another, letter on it. And says, as the sun settles, Clown regales Gunslinger with tales from centuries past, boasting of his many exploits. For his part, Gunslinger mostly listens, as he continues to top off their glasses. Says, as hours slip by effortlessly, Gunslinger says, tell me again how all that dead zone stuff works. It's darn interesting. Clown is sitting there looking, very content, as we can see pretty much all the food is gone. And then he tells him that he doesn't want any more whiskey. He says, no more, please. This world and its bounty, my body's still adjusting since my return. But Gunslinger Spawn tells him, and that return should be celebrated. Now I insist you lift your glass. Don't let your new partner drink alone. So here's to your genius and to all your kind have done. Again, the dagger. Now it spells out the full name, Amy. It says, again, he remembers. So Clown is saying, once Spawn is convinced to unlock the dead zones, I finally get my rightful place upon Hell's throne. And with it, the powers that should have always been mine. But Spawn tells him, doesn't that mean Spawn has all the power if he's the only one who can open it? And he's just like, yeah, for now. But when we spring our trap on him and I take over, it'll be glorious. Nothing can stop me then. And then Gunslinger Spawn tells him, well, unless I kill you first. And then it says Clown turns sober because he takes that as a very obvious threat, as you might imagine. And then Gunslinger Spawn returns the favor from earlier as he slaps him on the back and says, I'm kidding. I reckon you took me serious for a moment there. So Clown starts laughing, saying, if I had a heart, it would have had an attack. I knew I was going to like you. They have another servant come over saying, sir, dessert, as you requested, 2 layers joined together. And then he's about to cut into it as Clown is saying, in honor of my new partner, you may cut us a piece. But Spawn cuts him off saying, no, we don't consummate this in front of peasants. So he's just like, all right, you're right. Go, leave us be. And then Gunslinger Spawn is pouring some more whiskey as he says, to us. And then the party continues long into the night as they're drinking a whole mess of shit. There are a whole bunch of bottles up there, and geez. Anyway, Clown, who's basically slumped over the table, says, so, my friend, have I convinced you? I want to know. So Spawn is standing up, smoking a cigarette, saying, I must admit it's tempting, but now that you've told me how I can get home, and then he stabs him in the hand. He says, I don't give a shit what you want. So he slams his face down on the table and shit. And then he says, don't give me that look. I learned long ago, trust no one, especially your kind. You think I'm a fool? The moment I help you open the gates to hell, I'm a dead man. I know you'll never share your powers, and I'm not going to get used like one of your damn pets. He takes the knife and he keeps using it on him as he says, I've seen what liars do. And that's where we get, again, a shot on the knife that has Amy's name on it. And then he stabs him in the forehead saying, I'll not watch it again. So he says, that knife won't kill you, but you're going to have one hell of a headache, as he's kind of standing there just kind of in a stupor, I guess is the best way to describe how Clown looks. But he says, so before you pass out, the time rip, how does it work? Does it go in a straight line or can it jump around? As he kind of like swats or like, yeah, he's just kind of swatting him away. But he says, it doesn't matter. You're going to be dead before you ever get close to it. It kind of seems like, everything that Spawn has done thus far hasn't really amounted to much. So it says Gunslinger knows he can't beat Clown in a head-to-head battle as he like throws him back into this wall or whatever. So his guards come in and he says, Master, you're hurt? Let us take him. He says, this is my fight. Put your guns down and back away. So he says, let me demonstrate what I'm capable of doing. That's where the guy is saying like, but boss, what are you doing? As he lifts Gunslinger up into the air and shit. And then we see where he, basically snaps the neck and then he cracks the leg as he just kind of splits him in half pretty much. So it says sinew, cartilage, and muscle rip away from their bones. And then Clown is telling him they were right. He is the weakest Spawn. But then we see the voice coming from off panel and says, guess that depends what you consider weak to mean. So we see Gunslinger just kind of standing there, obviously unharmed. He says, is it the body or the mind? Seems like yours is failing. How you reckon on killing me when you can't tell the difference between your guards and me? A little magic and some booze? That's it? That's all it takes to put you off your game? Does hell know how pathetic you've become? So it says, as Gunslinger reaches for his pistols, a cadre of armed centurions enters. Guess he'll have to kill them too, which, I mean, they are kind of like a lesser target, a lesser, foe for him to deal with. So he does shoot at them and he says, I'm sure you could kill me if you wanted, but not in your condition, not as some low-life drunk. So Clown just tells him, yeah, you're right. Guess the children will have to take care of it then, as they all come, running out looking even more rabid than they ever have before. So it says, on cue, the clown's omens burst into the room and shit. Like vultures, they pick away at our hero's carcass as, clown's just standing there laughing. He tells them, to feast and all that shit. So that appears to be exactly what they're doing, right? Well, it does end up turning on him in just a moment. So he says, feed on him, my children, or should I say, my animals. So that's when Gunslinger says, that's your mistake, as he starts to stand up. He says, you think these souls still have some innocence. They don't. You're right, they are animals. Like wolves. I can control those animals, as we see that they all basically, come to a stop and just now start looking at Clown. He says, so I can control these. Now can the time rip jump years? Clown just tells him it can do anything if you're the one in charge of it, and you'll never be. So now he sees that all of his little omens are about to come and jump his ass, as Gunslinger says, then I'll make sure you never are either. But thank you for telling me who is, as they all, descend upon him. Says the omens encircle their former master, nearly 50 of them hissing and foaming at the mouth, conflicted their limited intelligence, telling them they must protect Gunslinger at all costs. And he just says, I'll make sure Simmons knows you've returned when I see him. And the next time you think about coming in my direction, remind yourself of something. Wild animals and whatever monsters you throw my way, they'll obey me, not you, as he walks away as Clown is just being attacked by his own minions in the background. It says he understands he isn't the strongest of the legion of hellspawns that have existed over the ages, but with proper timing and a bit of guile, the power he does possess might just be enough. So it says before leaving, Gunslinger enters a chamber, the one holding Violator. He quickly takes out every guard in the room, and he says, I don't care about you because you've got the same stink on you as Clown. And since this was our first meeting and all, I'll leave you a little gift. And then he takes the knife and starts carving into him and says, hope you show it to as many of my enemies as you can. So we see where he left the carving of the name Amy in the Violator. And that's where he just takes off. And the issue leaves off for right now as we continue to get the countdown. So we'll see what's going to happen with this as we continue to move forward. Like I said, I'm still continuing to enjoy this series. I'm not even going to try to deny that or pretend like I don't. I actually am. It's pretty good. I think it's better than, the King Spawn series right now. Slightly better than Scorched. Scorched isn't that bad, but it could be better. I just think the Gunslinger is actually doing pretty good as far as telling like an actually interesting story with a character that I've really come to, definitely enjoy. I'm not going to lie about that. I like Gunslinger Spawn. Even though he's apparently the weakest one, he's kind of one of the coolest ones. And as it kind of proved, he might not have like the same, strength and, energy as the others, but he definitely has, much more survival wit, I guess is the way to kind of think about it. But yeah, I'm still enjoying it. I'm still liking this particular series. So I look forward to seeing where it's going to go, quite honestly, because I think that this one has a lot of potential to just keep getting better and better. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for my review on this one. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like the video, make sure you're subscribed and you have that notification bell on. If you'd like to share the video, go ahead and do that. If you'd like to share something else too, go ahead and check out another campaign that is called Cerebrum from my friend over at Black Rose Comics. Go and check that out. Check out the campaign. I will link it down below in the description. Go and back it if you can. If you can't, share it out on social media. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody you can about it. Get it shared out so that way we can get it some more momentum and get that campaign just up higher. I want to see success in the indie market, which I mean, you could say that this is indie, but I mean, it's Todd McFarlane. He's a multimillionaire. He doesn't really need the money that bad. So some other people that I know, yeah, they could use some success on their comics. So I'm hoping to get that for them. And if I can do so by, plugging these little, these little moments into my videos, then I will absolutely do that as well. So yeah, go check out Cerebrum. It is a story worth your attention. And like I said, if you can't back it right now, go and tell people who probably can and get that word out there. Let's get this spread around. Let's get some new properties into the popular eye. I think that's the best thing that we can all do. But anyway, yeah, we're done here for now. So if you are done here, then go and read a book. And if not, then I'll see you on my next video.